Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we talk about all things automotive. Front of the house, back of the house, doesn't really matter. The better we all get at what we do, the better the customer experience. And after all, although for some it's a new experience, it's really never changed since the first Flintstone mobile was sold. It's always been about the customer experience. And what I try to do is bring on the experts to share with us what they do and how they do it. Because let's face it, as my good friend Paul Machine always says, a rising tide lifts all boats. And this is what they do. So why try to reinvent the wheel when you can learn from the experts? And oftentimes there's more to it than we can cover in one show. So at that point, you just simply click on the name, reach out to that person directly, and they'll be happy to answer questions. So welcome, Robin Wilson.
Thank you, sir. How are you this evening? And happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you and everybody out there. I am fantastic. As I was telling you, I indulged a little bit more than I should have in the cuisine over the last few days. So when I got home from visiting family, I hit the elliptical for an hour, and I have another hour of it to go after our show. So it was a good holiday.
It is, and that's some nice holiday discipline for you.
You have to do it, especially when you have Peeps and all of the other treats that we had. I love Peeps.
That's hysterical. We didn't. We had some good roast and potatoes and some pie, and life is good.
So for the few folks that might not know, who's this Robin Wilson woman? Oh, before we get started with that, and you say a little bit about who you are, where you've been, and how you got here. It's so funny. LinkedIn is such a great online community. I was at NADA, and we had both gone to this kickoff party. And I look over, I was like, "Are you Robin?" It's like all of a sudden we connected. We've been looking at each other's stuff online, but you don't always get to meet in person. So it was lovely to meet you in person.
Thank you. And that's funny because I think during the lockdown and the pandemic and everybody being kind of restricted on their live events, that we all spent that 2 years really connecting on social, because that was where we could actually talk to humans. And so it was so nice to actually be back out in public and to meet face to face these people that you feel like you already know.
Yeah.
You feel like you already know everything about them because you've lived with them for 2 years on lockdown in our devices.
Yeah. It was kind of neat. Walking the convention floor, people would come up to me, "Hey, Paul Meijer, how are your knees doing?" People that I'd never heard of before.
Right. And that happened to me a ton too. And it was, sometimes it's a little disconcerting because you're like, these people are having conversations with you, and my brain was just like going through every file folder going, where do I know them? And they would mention friends that we had in common, and I was just like, okay. And then I would just have to go back later and go, okay, maybe my live brain is different than my online brain. So getting to know them face to face was definitely a treat.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got here, your background, and what moves Robin Wilson.
Well, I'll tell you, I love my origin story. And I think we visited a little bit in Las Vegas about it, but we started in the social media space in 2013, really had a strong passion for small business owners and how they were who pulled us out of the recession. I was a mortgage lender prior to that. And so I was victim to all of the mortgage meltdown and the housing bubble, and all of that just affected my career and every way I knew how to make money. And so small business owners pulled us out of that recession. And I had a real strong passion for them as to how I could help them compete with the big box stores. And so to me at the time in 2012, 2013, the only way that I could see that they could do it and afford to was social media. And so I started this little company called Social Climber Pro, and our target demographic was small business owners, and how we could just help gain some exposure for them on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, wherever they wanted to be, wherever their audience was at, actually. And then in 2014, I was approached by a dealership that asked me to come and do social for them. And the GM of that store was super smart. He actually, whenever I gave him a proposal for my company to do his social media, he literally told me, that's all well and good, and you probably know everything there is about social media, but you don't know anything about automotive. And I'm like, well, I didn't know anything about the shoe store or the dentist office or the commercial carpet cleaner or the boutique or like any of the other companies that I had been helping with their social. And he said, I understand, but automotive is different and you need to work here. And I didn't want to work there. I didn't want a job at a dealership. I can't even imagine it never crossed my mind my entire life to work at a dealership. And he insisted, and after we came to an agreement that I would run my agency from his dealership, then I started working at a local Kia store here in Joplin, Missouri. And he was 9,000,000% right. Like the things that I learned by being right there with that staff, and even better than that is he made me a manager. And so not because the title was anything fantastic, but because I got to sit at the manager meetings every Monday and Friday with every department head and learn what they were struggling with this week, what they were struggling with, how could I help? And I have just enough testosterone in me to be like an ultimate solver. Like you start talking about something and my brain is trying to solve this problem. And so being able to go and listen to whether or not the new car manager needed to hit 25 more Optimas before the end of the month, or the service department was really struggling with their express service. And I would be like, how can I help them with what I do in the dealership? How can I help them? I can create an email campaign to our current customer base that's currently in Kia Fortes and get them to upgrade into an Optima. The whole thing would just start spinning. And so after serving that dealership for a couple of years, I went to the general manager and the owner, and I just made him a proposal. I said, look, I would love to go help more dealerships. And I can't do that if I'm sitting here, 6 days a week at this dealership. I said, so I want to give you 25% of my salary back. And I want to have a week per month that my rear end doesn't have to be parked at this office desk. And I said, I'll still be doing your social. I'll still be covering everything. I'll just be doing it from wherever I'm at in the world. And they agreed. Q2, I bought another week back. Q3, I bought another week back. And then by the end of that year, we transitioned into a vendor relationship, and they're still my clients today. And that's how I got to where we were at as far as being able to serve the dealerships. And in 2019, the end of 2019, before 2020, there had become this gap in the market with social media and social media leads. The BDC was really, a ton of BDCs were really dropping the ball on Facebook leads because they had just this stigma to them, and they didn't feel like they were great. So we started asking the dealerships, what if we call your Facebook leads? Let's see if they're really crap, then great. Then we'll pivot how we're doing lead gen. But let's see if we can have those conversations and turn them around. And so that's what started us having Epic BDC and having an in-house BDC. So little things in the market that just were gaps, and we just kind of stepped in there.
They wanted the Glengarry leads.
Yeah, they did want the Glengarry leads. That's exactly right. We were having that conversation this last week.
But what's funny is that it's all in how it's approached, right? It could be just some dirt in the water, mm-hmm. or you could sift through it and find out that it's really gold, right? When the gold rush happened, how much of it was gold? How much of it was crap?
Exactly.
It all depends how effective you were at filtering the water.
Absolutely.
So we got a couple of comments here. Michael Weldon from the West Coast says, good evening all. And Michael Dean Offmuth, happy Easter, Paul and Robin. Happy Easter to you.
Good morning.
And LinkedIn user, which is my friend Lamont, usually Lamont. After the show, it shows up as his name. But more often than not, it's Lamont says, good evening, everyone. So, wow, that's a pretty cool story to get started. The car business is unique, but the bottom line in anything online are the people.
Right.
So regardless of what the product is, sure, it's beneficial to know the culture of the store, to know the lingo And I'm going to share something in a little bit later on, that all are not created equal, because not all have experience in the store, and that does make a difference. But it's like anything else. It's like, who you are and what you do, how effectively you do it, really will determine your success, whether you're 2 days in or 40 years in. Doesn't make a huge bit of difference sometimes. So I have a message from one of our sponsors, and then we'll get right into the show.
Hi, my name is Kayla McCoy, and I'm the Executive Vice President here at Velocity Automotive Solutions. What you're experiencing right now is our latest product, Velocity Engage. Velocity Engage is the most powerful digital sales presentation tool ever created for your salespeople and BDC. Right now, just by opening this, I've been alerted that you're actively engaged and connected with me. I'll also know exactly how long you're engaged with each module in the portfolio below. Imagine your salespeople, BDC team, and managers having this information at their fingertips to help them improve their communication back with their customers. Knowledge is power. Power to convert more leads, close more deals, and hold more growth by knowing exactly what your customers are most interested in. In each of your vehicle portfolios, we will include valuable information that your customers want to see, but don't currently get with your existing website and in-store process. Things such as the original OEM window stickers with all the options and original MSRP on your pre-owned inventory. You have this on new vehicles, but not on your used. Give your used car customers that new car buying experience. Or how about your reconditioning service receipts? On average, you're probably spending about $1,200 to recon your vehicles. Customers want to see this, and it adds value and transparency to your vehicles when shopping. Velocity Engage will give you that competitive advantage you've been looking for. Velocity Engage is completely customizable and completely automated. The moment a vehicle hits your inventory, a portfolio will be generated. This is the way to ensure your dealership and your vehicles are getting presented the right way every time. Include documents and videos that walk your salespeople and customers through why they need to buy this vehicle from your dealership. Documents and videos such as CPO or non-CPO inspection forms, dealership-specific warranty information, meet the GM videos explaining the easy and transparent process when buying a car from your dealership, and so on. In today's modern retailing world, automated digital transparency is a must. So reach out to us today and let us show you how easy this can be to get started. Thank you so much, and I look forward to connecting with you soon to share more of how Velocity Engage can help you sell more cars and make more money.
All right, so starting the topic today, consistency in social media presence. Now, this is key because what I've seen is a lot of people start all gung-ho on social media. They think they know it because they have a Facebook account, and they jump right in. They buy fancy microphones, cameras. They put out a bunch of stuff, and then they disappear. They're gone for a while. And then they come back and they apologize for having been gone for a while. Hey, I know I've been missing for a little while, but I'm back now. And they put on maybe 2 or 3 things, and then poof, just like that, they're gone for good. And it seems we cycle through that. So consistency is key. Talk to us about how you leverage that.
Sure. So, I always liken it to, and I say this a lot, like your dog, right? Your dog wants to get fed every day. I mean, he doesn't just want you to throw a bunch of food out there and then he eats what he wants and he takes what he wants, whatever. He wants to be fed every day consistently. And Facebook is exactly the same. Since Facebook does not create any of, or very little of, their own content, like they're not a content producer, they count on to be able to hold those 3.2 million people on their site. They count on the fact that you're going to produce content that's going to keep them engaged and coming back. If I logged on to Facebook today and I saw Joe's cat and Helen and Stephanie are getting a divorce and someone else has put up some motivational quote, and then I log on tomorrow and I see the same thing, the cat, the divorce, the motivational quote, and it just keeps happening over and over again. After a while, I'm like, I've seen everything there is on Facebook. I'm not coming back. And so Facebook counts on the fact and rewards you by you producing content that people are interested in seeing. And the consistent social media presence, like you said, they'll start out all gung-ho.
Yeah.
And then they'll fall off, and they fall off because most of them, they have other jobs that they're doing. So let's say if they're an automotive salesperson, now they're in the middle of doing car sales and they don't have time to post to social, and it's a cause and effect, right? The social helped generate them some more car sales. And then whenever they were busy doing the car sales, they weren't posting to social. So their car sales fell off. So they had to go back to social again. And it's this constant
Roller coaster.
right? And so the consistency, the thing is that after a while, Facebook doesn't love that. Their algorithm doesn't love that. They want to reward those people who are constantly putting that content out there. And we call them engaging content too, because it can't just be. Most of the time, whenever I will go and do an audit for a dealership, there's 2 posts that are always there, and they are inventory and new customers with their vehicles. And generally, that's all you'll ever see, right? So it's just an infomercial. That's all they ever have. The vehicles on their lot and the happy customers that bought a car, and that's all they post.
It's the same picture with a different face.
Yep. And
every time.
The problem with that is that nobody is engaging with it, meaning an engagement is a like, a comment, or a share. Those are the buttons that you push that trigger the Facebook algorithm to go push this content into more news feeds.
Yes.
Most people think of their social media backwards. They think of it like, when you come to my page, what does it look like? Well, it doesn't really matter, because people aren't just tripping over to your page. So your job is to interrupt their news feed, is to get your stuff in their newsfeed, so that while they're scrolling on their Facebook profile, your stuff is pushing into their newsfeed, because Facebook says, I think this is something that they might be interested in. And so the way to figure out how to trick the algorithm can be tricky sometimes, right? So when we're working for a dealership, we will generally always do a Facebook contest on a Monday.
Yeah.
Always on a Monday. And then on Tuesday, you're going to get a new car post. And you're going to, because all of the people who played with my contest on Monday, because they want to win a free oil change or whatever it is that we're giving away, will 100% get my new car post on Tuesday. Okay. And so we're very strategic with where we put those. And then we may put another engaging post later in the week, like on a Thursday. And it may be you decide, Android or iPhone. It's something that people have a strong opinion about and they want to weigh in on. And so we're always trying to find those engaging posts. And then on Friday, you're getting a pre-owned vehicle from me, because you will have played with me on Thursday. And so that's the strategy behind how do we get them to get our content that I want them to have in their newsfeed. And a lot of dealerships will be like, why did you make a post about whether people like pineapple on their pizza or not? I'm like, because
part of the mix.
Half of America hates it and the other half love it. And they all think they're right. I don't care who's right or wrong. I care that they click the button to vote, because on Tuesday they're getting that Ford F-150 in their newsfeed, and it's going to roll into their newsfeed because they played with me on the pepperoni pizza or on the pineapple pizza. And so the consistency in social media is super important. It also really helps your ad spend. If you're doing Facebook ads, it helps those perform better also. And we've seen it 100 times. We'll take over a dead Facebook page and our ads cost us so much because we're trying to breathe life into this carcass.
No, it's so key. And it is a strategy that you constantly have to work at, because in one of our businesses, we've gone from a local presence to a global presence. Mm-hmm. And we get so many people. We got our first customer from Ecuador the other day.
Wow, that's awesome.
We shipped to New Zealand, Australia, the UK, Germany, the Netherlands, Canada. And we started out as a small mobile business. We've shipped to every state in the US. And we always ask them, how did you find out about us?
Right.
We're the nitty gritty yarn girl on Facebook in our yarn business. And they said, you just appeared in our feed. So it speaks exactly to what you're talking about. We create engaging content over and over. We do a lot of live, and it's different things that we do to engage the audience to act or react with us that gives us the results that you get for car dealerships. So it's a different audience, but it's a similar strategy.
Right.
To gather their attention. We got a couple of comments. Brian Davis, we used to work together at CDK, says, hey, Paul Meijer Hello, Robin Wilson. And LinkedIn user says audit process is a primary point. 100%. If you don't know what you're doing, then how do you know if you're doing it well or what you need to change? So that is key. And Kayla Fentanas, sorry if I mispronounced your name, says, hey, with a hands up emoji.
And you know what's really interesting about what you said is that they're like, it just popped in their newsfeed. So the Facebook algorithm will say, Paul liked this and Robin liked this. Who else in our audience out there in the world are like Paul and Robin? And then they'll serve it up to people who are like us.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And that's how they will get it, because they were like some other Facebook users, and they'll go out and search for them and find them. And because you and I engaged with it, they'll find people like us.
And the beauty is, if you create good content, I'm not talking about crap content, because there's a lot of people that put out a lot of videos that, between you and me, should be putting out less videos, right? But there's a lot of people that put out consistent, good videos, and people will engage with it. It's crazy. It's almost like they're waiting for the next piece of content to come out. It's scary in a way.
It is 100%. And I think someone asked on here too, how do you help the owners of dealerships to deal with stagnant interactive engagement? There's nothing that you can do about stuff that's already out there that's stagnant. You know, you just have to go, what does your audience, because an audience in Madison, Wisconsin will respond differently than someone in Orland, California. Yep. Right. And so it's really learning the audience and what they're about. And one of the things that we'll talk about today too is community. And people forget that social media is social. Yes. What's going on with your community? They don't want to be sold. They want to know, how are you part of our community? And you have to just do that by looking around you and going, okay, do I live in a small town, and is it fall, and is it Friday night, and are the Bulldogs playing the Cardinals? What's going on? Whose kid is playing? Weigh in. Are you team blue or team red? What are you on? And that engaging stuff is what it has to be personal to your dealership too. A lot of time, we spend a lot of time researching the communities around the dealerships that we serve. Yeah. Whether they are on the West Coast, on the East Coast, Burlington, Vermont, big ski area, big college town. And so what goes on there this time of year? And the stagnant stuff should not be stagnant. You have to have the stuff that serves your dealership. You have to have what the oil change specials are that are going on at your dealership. But you also have to feed them stuff that they're going to engage with, that they're going to appreciate that you put out there. One of my dealerships every April is part of a toy drive that serves a children's shelter. And for every toy that is donated to the dealership during the month of April, which is Child Abuse Awareness Month, then they, in the past, have given away free oil changes for every toy. And it doesn't matter if it's a $5 toy or if it's a $50 toy. And all of that go. And then there's also a dollar amount that they put a pack in there for, whatever that a check is written there too. But they spend this entire month of April doing everything they can to promote the toy drive. And not necessarily vehicles this month, right? People are coming into the dealership anyways. You really don't need to be pushing your stuff on social about, hey, I just got a Kia Telluride in. They're going to see it when they're there. So you just have to do the stuff within the community that will feed them as the humans that live in your community with you, and also let people know what the culture of your dealership is.
And that's key. And that'll bring us into our next point in just a second here. But, depending on your audience, the greater the audience, the more you need to know about that community, because you need to respond. So, for instance, we got comments. Adam Marburger, who's in the F&I space. Ascent Dealer Solutions says, happy Easter, y'all. Rachel Swanson, I heard that if you get 10 comments within an engagement post in under 15 minutes, that also pushes content up in the algorithm. Is this true?
It can be true. And Rachel, it may be true today. And then sometimes I feel like Facebook is the guy from the Wizard of Oz, right behind the curtain, constantly messing with the dials to see whether or not, this works today, and what may work today may not work tomorrow. So
always changing.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it when there's somebody at the dealership that they want to put the social media tag on them. That's what they do. But then they're also the one in charge of ordering pizza on Saturday and making sure that the bathrooms are stocked with toilet paper and all of the other stuff because they think that this is insignificant. But the changes that Facebook makes on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis are things that you have to be tuned into. And social media is a living, breathing thing. And I think that that person should just get to spend the time doing that task.
There's so much change that happens every day that unless you live in the space, you just can't engage it. I jump on some lives now and then where well-known people, you engage with them and they don't respond at all. So you end up leaving the thread, right?
Right.
I mean, let's see. Brian Davis says LinkedIn user.
You just dropped a nugget that I think a lot of people will miss. So I talked about putting a contest on Mondays, right?
Yeah.
And so let's say that the contest was, I'm trying to think of some of our ones that we've dropped lately. We have a store out in El Paso that they're right on the border. So a lot of things that we do will be Jarritos, the Mexican soda, or some other soda that's maybe a US or Pepsi, right? Maybe they may be weighing in on that. And and so every time someone comments on that thread, my team comments right back because Facebook doesn't know the difference between the consumer replying and us replying. So we respond back to everyone and we're like, oh yeah, I'm Pepsi fan too. Yeah, I'm Team Orange Jarritos. And so it builds up so much that Facebook pushes it higher and higher and higher out to more and more people because we have more engagement on it. Instead of them just responding, we respond back to every comment that someone makes on there.
It's key. I know when I worked in the store, my phone would ding around the clock. I ran their internet department and a lead would come in and I would have responses ready to go, just basically copy and paste, put in the name, a couple of personal identifying things, hit respond, and bam. And I would get responses back like, it's 3 a.m. You guys are open? I said, it's the internet, man. We're always open. And then I go back to sleep. I mean, it blew people away, but it is key. And so often the response that you get is a crap response. And I'm going to share one in just a moment here, but I just want to make sure I catch some of these comments. Brian David says, Robin, teach these folks. And Mark Williamson, very engaging content on the show tonight. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And LinkedIn user says, awesome response, Robin. Thank you. So you touched on a key point of who will handle these people. And I'm going to share with you a conversation that I have. All right. So we have a couple of Subarus in the family. We're actually on our 6th one in the family. And I have to be honest, I was a little remiss in updating the nav system on our Outback. So I reached out to a store and I threw out the question, what's the difference in cost to update my Outback navigation? Is it cheaper to download the update to an existing micro SD chip or cheaper to purchase a new chip? We have a 2.5 limited, right? Fairly straightforward question. Sounds like I kind of want to know, do I buy one or the other?
Right.
Hi, my name is blank. It's great to have you with us. That's great. I expect a little bit of small talk. Then I would be happy to help you with the difference in cost to update your Outback navigation. And if it is cheaper to download the update or purchase a new chip, I do not have the information listed. So why are you responding is what I'm thinking in my head. But my team can confirm. May I have your name? Before I get a chance, so I say, it's John. Yeah, if she asked me my last name, it was going to be Doe for sure. So she keeps asking me for my name and my phone number and the best email. If I wanted to call you, I would have picked up the phone. I figured it was fairly simple. Is it cheaper to buy the chip or download it? And I'm ready to buy it from you, wherever you are. It's the internet. It's 24/7. So we go on and on and on and on and on. Finally, I said, you don't get it. I said, I don't want to give you my name and information to be just another lead gen source. I'm 11 minutes into this chat. So she says, I said, I'm about to bounce. She says, I apologize for any inconvenience. For best assistance, please contact us directly. Here is the phone number to our service department. Give me the phone number, and a representative will be able to answer all your questions. So I don't know what they spent on that service.
Had to be a bot.
Um,
That had to be some version of AI.
I don't know. I would think AI is smarter than that. It was just a horrible experience.
I'm sure.
I bounced. I watched a couple of videos, and I was able to then find where to download it, and I was able to update it. But so who should manage this stuff?
Well, in dealerships that have a good, strong BDC, they generally, especially if they're spending a lot of time, a lot of money on Facebook ads or social media ads, they should have a dedicated person for this. We have a team ourselves. We've been doing this. We've been handling dealerships conversations on social media since 2014, and it's a different conversation. It's a different conversation than even website chat. Probably think about it along the same lines as text messaging. Those conversations, first of all, they don't want to wait 20 minutes to get a response. Like they just don't want to wait, right? Like you're like sitting there, like I text them. Most people don't think like I'll come back later. Maybe they will have answered me. They're like sitting there looking at their phone, waiting on someone to communicate with them.
Yeah.
It's not happening. It most of the time isn't happening because that person at the dealership is out ordering pizza for Saturday instead of being able to be dedicated to this. So there should be a dedicated person in the dealership. And it's super easy if you have someone good in your BDC that's really great with texting, that you could have them handle the website chat and messenger chat at the same time and have a real person in there. I mean, seriously, a real person in there. And if you think the humans cannot sniff out the AI or the bot within about 3 questions, you're mistaken. There's times when my people get a little bit too professional and they think they're talking to a bot and the customer will reply, stop. And I tell them the minute they do that, you have to respond immediately with, I'm a real human. I'm a real girl. Sorry if I didn't seem like that, and get them back engaged again. And then ask them, if you seriously want me to stop, I will. We can opt you out, but this is a real human on this side of it. You have to be conversational with them. If you're going for the, like for you, right? They're going for that lead right off the bat. They're wanting that right there. You have to build rapport with them. And whoever in your dealership is the best at that, put them on that, and then don't let them get distracted by anything else. One of the best ads available to the dealerships that is the cheapest is Facebook Messenger ads, and it drives them straight into Messenger where you can start having a live conversation with them. And it's like if they were standing there talking to you in person. You get to find out what they're worried about, if they have credit issues, if they have a trade-in, what they're thinking about driving home, how many seats do they need for all of their family, what do they love about the vehicle they have right now. Just like if you were standing in front of them, you get to warm them up so that whenever they come to the dealership, they're already, they feel like they've already given you a lot of information and they feel safe to come there.
And the thing with social media is that I feel it's a more personal level of conversation because there's more trust involved.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, they feel more personal, especially if you're like sitting there. Think about it, if you're texting your friend back and forth, right? You're chatting back and forth with your friend and it's happening in real time. Then, you're able to get your questions asked and you feel like somebody is actually listening to you. Now, a huge disconnect can take place if you are not copying all of that conversation into your CRM for your salesperson to read and get up to speed before that customer shows up. Because the last thing anybody wants to do is show up and tell the whole thing all over again.
Yes.
What are you trading in? I told you what I was trading in. And they don't know exactly who they were speaking to. So make sure that you could copy and paste that entire message into the CRM, or you have a piece of software that can push it all into the CRM. And the salespeople, train your salespeople to read all of the notes in there before that customer comes in, especially if they were set by the social media team.
If a customer thinks they're speaking to one person, regardless of how many people there are in the chain, I'm communicating with the brand is how I see it and how they see it. So the worst possible thing is to have to repeat. That's why phone systems are so critical today, because a percentage of the phone calls are dropped, lost, or they're transferred so many times or picked up by the wrong people that by the time you've explained your scenario a third time, generally you hang up before even finishing that third explanation. So that's key.
I'm constantly thinking about the customer's journey.
Yeah.
Right. The customer journey. Like if I were that customer, how frustrated would I be right now? Like I tell my team all the time, we have a Facebook team that's all they do. They are not on the phones. They are only in text and in Messenger all day long. And their job is constantly scroll up and read. If somebody asks you something, scroll up and read what they've already told you, because it may have been Lexi that was talking to him this morning, and Lexi's at lunch now, and you're picking up the conversation. I need you to scroll up and read every piece of conversation that Lexi had with that person before you ask them again, do you have a trade? And they've already told you it has 140,000 miles on it. It's a Dodge Journey. It has Cheerios stuck everywhere. You know what I'm saying? You have to read up, because as a customer, I would be ticked again if that happened.
You cannot skip a beat, because the minute you do, you've just lost everything you've gained. You've gone so far with this customer. They're about to come in, and then you drop the ball by asking them a question they've already answered.
Exactly.
Now, this plays into reputation management as well.
Right. Right. So you want to know, I love reputation management, and I love it because I love to take it away from dealers, and I'll tell you why. And I want to answer this question really quick. Rachel said, is it fair to say that your team plans out the dealer's Facebook content weeks in advance? Yes, we do. We're probably working right now on June calendars for our dealerships. And so those contests are scheduled out quite a bit in advance. If something comes up before that one is supposed to launch, that makes that contest irrelevant, then we will swap that out. But yes, we do, 100%.
That's key, because that'll save you time, while at the same time you're scheduled, but you're not so fixed that if something else that's better content comes up, you're certainly not going to move that aside because this is already scheduled.
Well, I'm going to tell you something that's really key too before we talk about reputation management, and that is I'm trying to think the right word. And tone deaf isn't really it, but it's being aware of what's around you. So we have what's called a catastrophe protocol. Anytime there is anything major that's going on in any of the cities that our dealerships have, that we have dealerships in these cities, like, so if it was when all of the flooding and the storms were in Houston, or we had a client in Las Vegas when the Las Vegas shooting happened, we're constantly monitoring the news to see what's going on and go, do we have a store in this area? I'm going to tell you, if you're handling social media for your dealership right now and anything happens in your community, you should go and unschedule every post you have scheduled to go and leave that space freed up for the communication that needs to happen within your community. If you have any ads running, turn them off for a period of time. Like it may be 3 days and then things have calmed back down again, if it's in the case of a storm or whatever and power has been restored. But like, to be so tone deaf that you're running ads when people don't even have power or shelter right now, you have to be very cognizant of what's going on in those communities at all times. So it's one thing that we're constantly watching, and it's never a great thing that you want to do that. But we had a dealership that there was a tragedy that happened towards Branson, Missouri a couple of years ago, and there was these boats called the ducks, these boats that went out, they drove on the land and then they drove out into the water, and a storm came up and flipped a couple of them over, and several people died on these duck boats. The marketing for that dealership for that month that was just rolling out was, the optics were horrible in relationship to this, because it was like, are you underwater on your car? And it showed this car at the bottom of a lake.
Oh, wow.
But the marketing was planned months before this tragedy happened, but we were all very quick to pivot and go, let's change the optics on this month. So you have to think about those things in social also. It's a little heavy, but it's super important. And then talking about reputation management, one of the funnest things I ever get to do is to audit somebody's reviews. And I laugh because I know how hard people work to build their dealerships, right? And they get very passionate about the fact that this customer lied about them in this review, and they go at it head to head with them in the review on the public forum, and they're telling them, you're a piece of crap, you had a 450 credit score anyways, you couldn't have bought a toaster at a bank that they were giving them away. and I like just go, oh my gosh, please.
I've seen those.
I know, but I appreciate their passion. But the review reputation management is not for that one person. And although it's the management's job to go and try to solve the problem if they can, the comments and the responses to reviews are for the other 100 people who are reading them and trying to decide whether they're going to do business with this dealership.
Yes.
Although this person may have buried them, how we respond to that determines whether or not they will move forward and go,
yes.
As we're trying to explain, sir, we had you in 3 different times. We gave you a loaner vehicle. I'm sorry you're upset. We wish that we could have gotten the part in quicker for your vehicle. And I know it must be frustrating for you. And so then the next customer, the new customer, is reading it and may go, man, they tried everything they can. This guy's still being a jerk.
Right.
Just absolutely won't. But the minute that you start fighting with them back and forth, they're going to take the side of the customer every time. And so reputation management should never, ever, ever be done by a manager at the store. Like not the sales manager, not the general manager, not the service manager. Like they're way too close to it. So we work hand in hand with our dealers. We always have a Facebook Messenger group that we're part of with a management team. We'll go, hey, we got this review in today. And they're all really good. They're like, here's what happened, Robin. They'll tell me their side of the story. The customer has told us their side of the story. We will together formulate a response and then go, does this sound right? And they'll go, yep, go with that. Because I have to have both sides of the story to know, because the truth lies somewhere in the middle. It always lies.
Exactly.
Always. The customer's not right. The service department or the salespeople aren't right. Everyone has a side of the story that was how they witnessed this event happen. And so we never put our dealerships in any type of liable situation. We always run it past them and go. And then at some point, if they say, and it's super important, if they say, I'm calling my attorney right now, or the Better Business Bureau, blah, 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 you just stop. We stop all communication and we go, that has to be handled over here. We will no longer give them anything in writing that they can use against the dealership.
And the thing is, in crafting an appropriate response that shows all the elements of being human, that sometimes mistakes do happen.
They do.
And people get that. And nobody's going to hang you out to dry for being honest and coming to terms with the fact that, hey, you know what, maybe we did miss something, but we did all these other things to try to make up for it,
right? But
not in a confrontational kind of way,
right?
Because the minute they have to get out the popcorn, you've lost.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You've lost.
You might as well be popping some gifts in there.
Yeah, you've lost, and you do not get the opportunity, because let's face it, we have so many choices today. I don't have to go anywhere where I suspect I'm going to have a shitty experience. I just don't. I can easily eliminate, if there's 30 people I could go to, and people aren't as particular anymore. It's not like back in the day where they saw you coming onto the lot. Oh, that person didn't buy the car here. What day can we service your car? How about the 5th of never? How's that work for you? How do you like them apples, right? That can't happen anymore.
That's right. And I'll tell you, we as a company will not take a client that has a horrible culture. And we've done it. And so I've made that mistake in the past and had to fire dealerships. And I say that for a reason, because my team spends so much time putting out fires that they can't actually do their job effectively. Because the company culture is so bad to the consumer that there's no way that I can justify to my team. They're like, what do I say back? How do I respond to these people? They're just beating us up in the comments, in the messages, in the reviews. What do we do? And after several times bringing it to leadership at the dealership, if they are not proactive about taking care of whatever the actual internal problem is, then my team will just have to back out and go, you're gonna have to find somebody else.
No, that's key. And you know what? That shows a lot of integrity on your part, because look, there's enough business to go around for everybody. And I've had people that have wanted to come into my space, and in looking at their reputation, some of those people I've had to say, I'm sorry, but we're just not a good fit based on what I see. I'm not really interested in what happened. I just know I can't be associated with you. And there's nothing personal, but I just can't do it. Now, I've got another question here. Robin, I might be jumping ahead here, but in relation to the contest you mentioned, has it ever been considered in allowing different roles within the dealership or businesses to be someone else's role?
I'm going to read it again and make sure I understand it. Has it ever been considered in allowing different roles within the dealership or business to be someone else's role?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
I'm not either. If you would kind of rephrase that for me, I would probably have a better chance. Other than if it's in just social media, you can have someone who's just a social media or a marketing person within your dealerships, and that's their job, and they're not in the BDC. But like whenever I started there, they had me as, I think they let me title myself. I got to be the marketing manager or social media manager. I don't remember what I gave my title. They said, the sign guy's coming, pick your title. And I was like, all right. If
you could clarify that question, that would be great.
A lot.
Mark Williams says, 5th of never. That happens to be my birthday.
And you will be forever young.
All right, now, consistent email campaigns that are relevant messaging, custom lists from CRM instead of blast. Right. What's wrong with the spray and pray? Let's throw the same message at everybody, whether or not it's relevant. What's wrong with that?
So once again, let's talk about the customer journey. You're a customer and you just keep getting these emails that show every special of every vehicle that they have on their lot right now. Okay, great. Or you are someone who was in 6 months ago and didn't purchase a vehicle because you didn't have enough money down. And now there are some great cashback incentives on the vehicles that you were actually looking at. And you could probably get in now with less of a down payment. Is that more relevant, or the spray and pray? Or you were turned down because of credit issues 6 months ago, and we just picked up a new lender that's really good with bumps and bruises. And now I can pull that list out of the CRM and go, hey, I think that we have a better shot at getting you approved this time. If you're still in the market for a car, can we help you again? Or we just got a bunch of K5s in, and you're an Optima driver, and that's the replacement for, have you come and looked at the K5 now? You're an Optima owner instead of the spray and pray. So to me, if it were more targeted to who I am as a consumer, other than just another piece of crap in my inbox, then
and we get a lot of that.
I would be more open to opening it, right? And so so we within our part of our social media that we do for our clients, we do custom email campaigns once or twice a month, depending on, right now it's been a little iffy on inventory. So we may have to, maybe be looking at a buyback campaign, or if people are in a 2015 or 16 or 17, and we think that's something that we're interested in, and we know that we have some good pre-owns on the lot right now that we could probably trade them out of, and we pulled them by interest rate, and we know that they're at 15% or above. Those are a little bit more targeted, and they have a better message, and they're better received. And we in the industry, where we're seeing like a 17% open rate in the automotive industry, and that's pretty general across the board. We're seeing anywhere from 32 to 38% open rate.
That's strong.
It's just because, and one of the people,
it's relevant.
Yeah. Kyla Fentanes, who's on here, that said, hey, earlier, she works for me, and she A/B tests subject lines all the time, because you can make the most beautiful email, but if that subject line doesn't get them to open it, nobody ever sees what's inside. And then once they're inside, if there's nothing enticing enough for them to click through to the website again, then they won't do that thing either. So every piece of the email is really important. And the spray and pray to me just doesn't work.
I used to bring my Lexus to a dealership that also had a Chevrolet brand. And after bringing my Lexus in for service, I would continually get specials on the Chevy trucks. Now, I'm just not a truck guy. I'm not. I'll never drive a truck. The only time I'll be in a truck is if it's somebody else's truck, or if maybe when I die and they transport the box in a truck. But other than that, I'm just not into trucks. Yet this particular dealership saw some benefit to them in continually hammering me with truck specials.
It was easy. And I mean,
Makes no sense.
it's just lazy. So and I don't mean like the person was lazy. I just think it's lazy marketing. And they're not, it takes a little bit more work, right? To stop and think about who should we target this month? What inventory do we have? And then what customer do we have in our database that may want to hear the message about the inventory that we have? And so it just is putting it together instead of just serving up the same thing and clicking a button.
Now, when we refer to we're talking about everybody at the dealership, which brings me to a key point. There's turnover at dealerships. Okay.
Crazy.
So now you're already looking at someone that is already stretched too thin, doing too many things, and it's kind of reactionary on the social media strategy. They're doing it like, oh man, it's almost 5 o'clock. I need to get something up there. Now, if you're doing it with a purpose, that's great. But if you're doing it as an obligation, that's not so great.
Right.
You know, I don't care if I'd rather make 3 phone calls that land than check off 50 phone calls in the CRM that go nowhere. So the benefit of having a company that lives in the space, this is all you do. Somebody leaves the dealership that had been doing that. What happens then?
It happens so much. I mean, if you think about right now, I mean, oh my gosh, the past 8 months, this employee shortage thing was a real thing. And I know people want to say, oh, well, if you pay them more, they'll stay. And that wasn't the fact. That truly wasn't the fact. I mean, getting them to even show up for an interview during those 8 months was arduous. It was painful. And so I can't even imagine on the dealership side of it. And that's one thing, that's one reason why our BDC grew so fast, is because the dealerships couldn't get people to stay or to even come to work or to come for an interview. And so they're like, I can't take the hassle of this anymore. I'll train people for 4 days and then they screw off somewhere in the wind and they're gone again. And so they were like, Robin, do you have human capital? I'm like, yes, I have human capital. I have humans. And we struggle with it too, but we know that it's a constant cycle of keeping people. So on the dealership level, especially for a role like that, it's tough because first of all, you're trying to find someone, first of all, who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
that's key.
And that you're smart enough at the dealership level to know that you need to pay them enough money, because they don't just know Facebook. They're going to know Twitter. They're going to know Instagram. They're going to know email. They're going to figure out your YouTube channel. They're going to do everything that they can all the time to keep these conversations alive and growing. And most people in the dealership struggle with one platform. Like if you think about a salesperson or a GM or a sales manager, barely have a Facebook profile, let alone Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, email marketing, working in the CRM. And so if they can find one, if they can find somebody, then they need to pay them enough and not overload them with a bunch of other crap that they don't need to be doing. It's a tough gig to find someone that knows that stuff or that is willing to learn it.
Yeah, no, it's key. And it's not just, it can't, we have, some people sometimes have egos in the car business, and it can't just be, hey, don't like it, hit the brakes. I could do this. It's just being on Facebook. It's just so much more to it than that.
It is. It 100% is. And these people are in charge of your entire voice. They're in charge of your voice of the dealership. You got TV and radio Those are your commercial, whatever. But the rest of the living, breathing heartbeat of your dealership that happens online happens through either website chat or social media. And so you've got to put some value in these people that you're hiring and get them the training that they need, which go, hey, I think you've got a good feel for this, but what other classes can you find online so you can learn this other stuff, because it's important too.
Right. Now, how do you deal with, not everything is it's not always easy to connect the dots, but as far as trackability and accountability, how do you manage something like that?
Well, we measure everything. So we measure whether our posts are engaging, which one fell short, which one did really well, which one performed well in Cleveland versus Cape Coral, Florida. We measure engagement on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And if you don't measure it, there's no way to know whether you succeeded or not. Facebook, Instagram, all have really good insights. They have great measurement tools in them. All you have to do is be able to know where to look to find them, and to be committed to measuring. On your emails, measure your open rate, measure your click-through rate, test it between, if you have a blue button that says shop now versus a red button that says shop now, which one did better? Which one will they click more? If you used emojis, did it work better than if you used, exclamation points? So we measure everything, and I can tell you 100% that the dealerships really don't care. I send them reports every month. That's the reason I know. I send them reports every month to let them know how their social media engagement was, how their organic performed. And they barely open my reports ever. So it's how I know that they generally don't care. Either that, or they just trust me to know that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. But that they're
too busy.
Their data is there for them if they ever want to see, like, Robin, how is this stuff performing? And I'm going to resend you the report I sent on the 6th. Take a look at it, and we can take a look at that again. And then they'll go, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. But
that's always classic, when you forward the original email that it contained the information that they never looked at.
But it's okay. I'd rather them have it sitting in their inbox and them not read it, than for them to go, you never send me the reports or whatever, and then I'm scrambling to get them the data that they need.
You know what else I like about the Facebook thing also is that you have the ability to see what the stores around you are doing. You can watch them, and you can easily track what their engagement is compared to yours. So in one of our businesses, I had set up to track the quote unquote competitors, but it turns out these people were doing nothing. So I basically stopped looking at it. There was no need for me to look at the others that were doing nothing.
Right.
As long as we were making gains at that point,
Well,
same thing.
We had one dealership that they were like so proud because they had 12,000 followers on their page. And I'm like, that's fantastic. So I went and looked at their nearest competitor, only had 3,500 followers on their page. The 12,000 follower page was dead. There was nobody liking, commenting, and sharing. And what that equated to was that no matter what they posted, it wasn't pulling into anybody's newsfeed. So it didn't matter how many followers they had. Nobody was seeing their stuff. And that 3,500 page was alive and hopping.
I see some corporate pages, and it drives me crazy. I see company owners that post this generic crap from the corporate page that has no relevance with the local entity. Zero.
You see snowy mountains and a Ford pickup truck on a dealership down in Galveston, Texas.
No relevance. And I look at the data and I said, look, I don't know. Well, we're posting something. Yeah, but you're wasting your time, and you're really abusing your audience, because if it represents no value to your audience, they're not going to come back and look at your stuff. You're doing more harm than damage by posting this. Now, Rachel Swanson says, love A/B split testing versus set it and forget it. You have to continually do that.
We do. And it's, it's time consuming. And like I said, we don't do it for our dealerships. I mean, we do because we want to get them the best results, but we do it for us because we're like, okay, great. Like if I can sell one car off of an email, like just one, then then what I did was worth it. And then I can go, okay, great. How do I sell 2 cars next month? What will make the
Right.
difference for me? And so I think the A/B testing is huge. I mean, we have times that we have crappy open rates on our emails or crappy. We push a engagement post that we think is relevant at the time, and it falls flat. But we learn from it. We make a note of it, and then move on and go, okay, well, we tried that. That didn't work. Why didn't it work? Did it work anywhere at all, or did it just not work in these areas? It's important. If you're not A/B testing, you're just really missing the mark.
And the key thing we have to remember is first of all, there's nothing personal, right? It doesn't matter what you and I think,
Right.
unless we're stroking the check for every product and every service. What you and I think means this much. It matters what the customer thinks. And the only way to know that is to continually A/B test and look at the data to see what's worked, what hasn't, what's worked, what do we need to duplicate or replicate, what hasn't worked, what do we need to change, and what's trending, right? That's also a key component, to see what's trending so that you can get ahead of the next hot thing by
Right.
recognizing that.
Absolutely.
So, wow, 60 minutes is a long time, but it happens so fast. And here we are again at the end of yet another Sunday Night Live.
It happens.
I thank you very much. I hope this gives everybody a little bit of a glimpse as to what you guys do. You are tagged in the post, so anybody that has questions, because I always learn that you always remember what you forgot to ask when you had the opportunity to ask it. So with the internet, the beauty of the internet is it churns 24/7. So if there's something that you remember or you have questions that Robin, this is what she does and what they do. Just click on the name, reach out. She doesn't bite, and she's happy to field the call. So
Absolutely.
Robin, thank you very much. And thank you everybody for watching, those that watched tonight and those that will watch it on the replay.
Thank you,
Have
Paul.
an
We appreciate your time.
awesome rest of your night, and have a safe and successful next week. And we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live.